America is the greatest country in the world. Welcome to our special right here on the First TV, Media Lies and Propaganda, the lying media. Where do we even begin? It's only an hour. We could do 24 hours straight on this, nonstop. I feel like it's like what's the last line in John, the book of John? It's like Jesus did a bunch of other things, and if every one of them were written down, even the whole world would not have room for the books that could be written. You could go on forever and ever. All the books in the world could be written on media lies and propaganda. My concern isn't so much on the media lying, and we'll get to that later, but do people even know they're being manipulated? Real Clear did a poll, one of these approval polls of Trump, which I never pay attention to, but this one is interesting because it broke it down by demographic group. And every demographic group by age supports Trump. Every age, even young people. But the only age group that doesn't are people over the age of 70. And they really don't. It's like negative 14 for Trump. What's that about? How'd that happen? Well, there's probably a bunch of reasons, but I think one of the biggest ones is that age group watches the most TV news. If you start your day with the ladies from The View, if you start your day with Whoopi and Joy Behar, and you end it with David Muir, and you fill the middle with the cawing of MSNBC all day long, anyone will go crazy. Like they should do that at Guantanamo Bay for terrorists. That's crazy. People do it willingly on themselves. But if you had a steady stream of that nonsense as part of your diet, you'll think anything. As Jesse Kelly has said, you'll think the sky is green, if that's what they tell you. You'll think that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is a wonderful Maryland father. And then Trump will show you a picture of his MS-13 tattoos on his knuckles, and you'll say, oh, that's Photoshopped. Because that's what the media said. The media said it was Photoshopped. This was Trump's one. But look, okay, keep that picture up, guys. Can you put that picture up one more time? This is so crazy to me. Okay, so Kilmar's tattoos. Marijuana leaf, smiley face, cross, skull, cruces in Spanish, starts with a C, third letter. That's the 3. MS13. The letters above it in Times New Roman font, size 12, that's what the Trump administration wrote on top of it. It's like a piece of evidence in front of a courtroom. They captioned the symbols on his knuckles. But that's what the media is saying is Photoshopped. Therefore, the whole thing's Photoshopped, and it's all fake, and Kilmar's a great guy. Here is Trump's interview, his 100-day interview in the Oval Office on ABC.
Murderers, criminals in this country, we have to get them out, and we're doing it. By law. And you'll pick out one man, but even the man that you picked out, he said he wasn't a member of a gang. And then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute.
Well, wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattooed.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not have the letter MS-13.
It says MS-13.
That was Photoshopped.
That was Photoshopped, Terry. You can't do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You know, you're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay. I picked you, Terry. Hey, but you're not being very nice. He had MS-13 tattooed.
Right. We'll agree to disagree. I want to move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture.
And you think it was Photoshop? Well,
here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look at his hand. He had MS-13.
He did have tattoos that can be interpreted that way. I'm not an expert.
Okay, so it's a 3-minute clip. Trump won't let him go on. It's incredible, that moment right there. So can you guys throw the picture back up again? So they're saying that because the Trump administration wrote in Times New Roman size 12 font, MS-13, therefore that photo is altered, therefore it's Photoshopped, therefore it's fake, therefore he's not a gang member, and he's actually a Maryland father. The analogy I came up with, we got a lot to do, I'll keep this quick. If you went whale watching, and you're you're on the boat, and someone takes a picture of you and your wife, and the whale is behind you, and the whale jumps out of the water right when you took the picture, that'd be amazing. And you put that on Facebook, and you put a caption over it, you wrote, wow, So there's a picture of you and your wife and a whale jumping out of the water. You wrote, wow, and you put it on Facebook, and people said, that's fake. You'd be like, well, no, it's amazing. It looks fake, right? Because the whale jumped out of the water. It's crazy timing, right? And they're like, no. The word wow isn't floating in the ocean. You altered that. Therefore, you never went whale watching. You're like, oh, you idiot. Yeah, of course that part's altered. But that doesn't negate, the M above the marijuana leaf does not negate the marijuana leaf tattoo. Like that level of deception, to me, it's not stupidity. It's way, way, way worse than that. And again, it's not about Kilmar. Who cares about Kilmar? It's about the people lying about the picture, but really more than that, it's about the people who fall for it. How could you fall for that? And again, it's not about Kilmar. He was just the deceit of the week. They're working overtime every day to find a new Kilmar. Right? It was like the day after when Kilmar fell apart, that whole storyline. Then it was, oh, America deported a 2-year-old U.S. citizen. Defend that, MAGA. You're like, all right. The boy's mom was deported and the mom took her daughter with her. And if we didn't let the mom take her daughter, then the media would be saying we separated families and we're holding a 2-year-old hostage away from her mother. We ripped them apart. And AOC would be crying about it. And we'd be cruel. You can't win with these people. My producer says we have a clip of Charlemagne talking about this. I haven't seen this yet, but go and play it.
Louisiana judge says a 2-year-old U.S. citizen has been deported with no due process. On Friday, a toddler was sent to Honduras with her mother who had been deported. Now, it is important to note that the mother does not have legal status in the United States.
I did not know until you said it about the 2-year-old. I mean, I knew about the 2-year-old getting deported, but all the news reports just kept saying that a 2-year-old got deported. I didn't know that the mother had got deported because she wasn't a citizen. I mean, I didn't know that.
Okay, good on him for realizing that and admitting that. Yeah, that's the story. We didn't deport the 2-year-old, deported the mom. And the 2-year-old went with the mom. Listen, the media propaganda, it's really bad for our country. We all know that. And it's not about just making it harder for conservatives to win elections. It's really bad for people's souls. It's bad for our souls. It's bad for our lives. It's bad for just people living together. It's bad for relationships. It's really deep. It's not just a political thing anymore. So when Trump won, let's go back to November. Trump won, people were in max freak out mode, of course, about it. Very worried about what's going to happen in a Trump second term. So I wrote down, back in November, I wrote down a lot of their fears. So now that time has passed, we can see if any of those fears have come true. Because this is all the media. These fears came from somewhere, right? They came from the media. People in the media made these up. All the talking heads, right? Now, and then people just they were fed a steady diet of panic and fear-mongering all the time. Now, if fears did come up not from the media, if they didn't originate from the media, but they just came from somewhere else, a media's proper role is to calm those fears and say, hey, this actually isn't what happened, here's the truth. But they didn't do that. Of course, they fanned them. And they drove people crazy. Like literally, people just believe crazy things. So I just made a list of a bunch of the fears here. That Trump would ban contraception, end voting, put troops into immigrant neighborhoods, set up a network of camps for immigrants, not just illegal, but immigrants all over, start World War III. These are all from the opinion writers of the New York Times. They made a video before the election with very scary sounding music about what's going to happen with the second Trump presidency. This is 5-time New York Times bestselling author Malcolm Nance. He thinks that under Trump, there'll be loads of people dying at Trump's hands. Daughters, wives, children, citizens, school shootings, pregnancy deaths, easily cured diseases, free hunting season for blacks, immunity for cops. Muslims and Latinos will definitely die in mass deportation roundups and camps. Hillary said that it will be the end of democracy in the United States. He's going to pull America out of NATO, create unimaginable wreckage, shut down the free press, throw people in jail who disagree with him. Rachel Maddow thought that she herself would be put in an internment camp. Do you see how the media is fanning all? You see this? Trans people won't be legally defined as human beings anymore. We were told gay people won't be able to love who they want to love. The National Weather Service will be abolished. Special education will be canceled. Social Security will be eliminated. Women won't have access to their bank accounts. Women won't be allowed to get credit cards. Women won't be allowed to have driver's licenses. Now, it's only been 100 days. We still have some time to get the good things across the fence. I'm joking. No time for misogyny here, Slater. Come on. Tim Walz said that Trump is going to monitor all pregnancies, outlaw miscarriages, end voting, ban books, make protest illegal, outlaw the polio vaccine, bring back the whooping cough. That one's according to NPR. Trump's gonna bring back the whooping cough. Here's comedian Jimmy Kimmel, very, very, very upset.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare, for our climate, for science, for journalism, for justice, for free speech. It was a terrible night for poor people, for the middle class, for seniors who rely on Social Security, for our allies in Ukraine, for NATO, for the truth.
Fanning the flames of fear and hatred. Just turn these people off. Turn them off. They have beclowned themselves enough. Don't get caught up in it. Don't get beclowned by being a part of it. If someone just tells you something over and over and over again, it's not true. Over and over and over again. And now we proved it's not true. Just time has proved it's not true. Why would you keep listening to them? Why do people? Does people feel like, oh, at least I'm fighting against the injustice of the... You're not. You're just, people are telling you lies. Now, of course, people can have opinions and agree and disagree on things. Of course. It's the fear-mongering that needs to stop. Turn the legacy media off. They do not deserve your time. Friends do not make friends go crazy. Friends don't make friends hysterical. That's not what a friend does. If you're ever feeling anxious about something, you call a friend so they can calm you down. Speak truth into the moment. That's what people who love you do. You would never call someone and they make you more hysterical. That's not a friend. But we turn on the TV all the time, which makes us even more hysterical. And people do it over and over again because they actually hate you. Turn it off. They do not deserve your time. We're going to talk to Fox News anchor coming up next. We'll get her take on the media and what drives the media. Talk to Tom Askell. We'll get a biblical take on this. And then we'll wrap up with biblical examples of deceit. It's all throughout the Bible. This is nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun. Media bias has been around for a long, long time. But it doesn't have to be. It's all coming up right here on the First TV. Spread the word.
President Biden's decline and its cover-up by the people around him is a reminder that every White House, regardless of party, is capable of deception. But being truth tellers also means telling the truth about ourselves. We, myself included, missed a lot of this story, and some people trust us less because of it. We bear some responsibility for faith in the media being at such lows.
I think the reporters covering this White House were too willing to take the Biden team's word for it.
This is not a media failure. This is a failure of the Democratic Party. And I just sort of the virtue signaling that some people have done to try to say that the media missed this story. They didn't miss this story. The people at fault are Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Jill Biden, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, every elected member of Congress.
Interesting. I want to go to the great Julie Banderas, of course, from Fox News, author of the book, A Monumental Mistake, which I look forward to chatting about in just a second. But Julie, first, hello, by the way. How are you?
Hi, great to meet you here via phone.
I wanted to ask you what the most egregious example is of media lies and propaganda, but we kind of set you up for a topic right there with that. Are they trying to have a come to Jesus moment here where they recognize their own failures and all this, or what was that there?
I think the biggest media lie was the Biden cover-up and his cognitive decline, and media members, especially in those in the liberal media, mainstream media space, where they actually sat down, they did face-to-face sit-down interviews with President Biden. They themselves saw that this was a president who was lacking in memory, he was lacking in cognitive ability and physical ability, and just overall awareness. And the fact that they hid that is bad enough. But they protected the White House. They protected Biden because they didn't want Donald Trump in office. And so as a result, the Democratic Party ended up losing the White House because they waited until the very last minute to finally come to terms with their cover up. And then they throw in Kamala Harris at the very last minute, and it cost them the election. That's the price that not only the liberal media is responsible for, but that the Democratic Party had to pay for the cover up. So as far as media lies, I think the cover up of President Biden and an pending investigation will be the big story, at least that I'll be covering. I don't know about the mainstream media. I doubt you'll hear the story there.
Yeah. So Chuck Todd blamed the White House, but it's not just the White House, right? The White House can lie all day. What's the responsibility of the Chuck Todds to then what? Do real journalism or use your brain or what?
Right. Well, and that's the problem. Okay. So it's the Chuck Todds of the world that came out later and admitted that the liberal media was afraid to reveal Biden's cognitive decline because anything that they could possibly say or do that would shine a negative light on Biden would essentially shine a positive light in the direction of Donald Trump. And the liberal media did everything in their power to make sure that they would do nothing to empower Donald Trump, even if it meant lying and being involved in what I would consider to be the biggest media cover-up of all times.
Maybe we can move away from that specific story, but just in general, what do you think motivates most people in the media for lying and deceiving? Is it all political motivation? Or what? Like what else is happening here at the root of it, you think?
It's 100% politically motivated. I mean, I remember watching the news growing up, in the Tom Brokaw, the Peter Jennings days. And Peter Jennings happened to be an idol of mine. And, people may say that he was liberal, but growing up, I didn't really see his politics. I saw him as a calm and steady force in the news, especially when there was breaking news. I would turn on ABC and I would watch Peter Jennings because he had this calm, empathetic, just professional way of delivering the news, and people turned to him, especially during grim times, to get breaking news in the country. And that's what we turned our news on, to find out what was happening in the world, not to find out their opinions, not to find out who hates who, not to hear them bash certain politicians that are on certain sides of the aisle. But now it's very different. And I understand that cable news has obviously dominated the opinion news cycle. I believe that the rest of the media, the mainstream media, the broadcast networks like ABC, CBS, NBC, and so forth, have sort of followed suit. But the bottom line is that the news is supposed to be impartial. And we haven't seen that in the mainstream media in many, many years. And that's why I work at Fox News Channel, because I present both sides. You don't get both sides. I could sit here and speak for hours about how many stories I currently talk about that the other media is not. I mean, I just covered yesterday a story about a trans athlete in Long Island, a 14-year-old girl who is socially identifying as a male, has not done any hormones, has not actually transitioned to be a boy, but she is socially identifying as a boy and is being allowed to compete on a girls' track team and use the girls' locker room. Will you see that story in the news? No, you will not. She, in fact, is going to end up costing the school district in Shirley, New York, $15 million in federal grants because that goes against Trump's policy. Again, that story will not be covered in the news. And it's not about the anti-trans movement. That's something that the media is also lying about. It's not that. It's about fairness in sports, fairness in women's sports. A 6-foot-tall 15-year-old biological boy should not be able to play against girls his age, or I should say her age, because she identifies as a girl. Those are the stories that you will not hear from the media. So by not covering them, as far as I'm concerned, that's lying to the public.
Do the people, let's say people on the left in the media, do you think they intentionally seek to deceive? Like, do they know what they're doing? Or is it a laziness or a negligence, or I'm just going along to get along, whatever?
It's not negligence. It's not lazy. It's all purposeful. I mean, when we walk into a newsroom or as a journalist, as a news anchor, we walk in, we have editorial meetings, okay? We go through the big stories of the day, oftentimes Associated Press and Reuters, those are the articles, those are the, a lot of the media publications that the news uses when they do get their editorial. Those news agencies are liberal as well, but you can see what happens every day. You can read. News journalists are constantly reading. They pick and choose what stories to put in their newscasts. So every morning when Fox News Channel has what's called the War Room meeting in the morning, it's at 9 a.m. every single morning, and they go through what stories will be told that day. The other stations are doing that as well, but they're purposely omitting particular stories because it does not suit their political motivation.
Yeah. I've always said the biggest bias is what they don't cover, as you articulated with your story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Julie, it's great to talk to you. Tell us about your book. Tell us about your kids' book, and what's the lesson that you want kids to learn from this book?
Okay, so I'm a mom of 3. And the one thing that is most important to me and always has been so important to me from the time they were babies, and I watched, toddlers from other families talking back to their children, I said to myself, no, that needs to be stopped early. And my book is about respect. And essentially, this book is called A Monumental Mistake. And if you are a parent at home, anyone who's watching, how often would you say that you watch a child disrespect somebody else, whether it's another kid, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a peer, whether it's a stranger, it doesn't matter. How often do you see children disrespect each other? I would say all the time. And that's something that's bothered me so badly. And so now as an author, I've partnered with Brave Books, this Christian conservative book publishing company that puts out, positive stories, teaching children values and morals. And the one thing that we need to do as parents, first of all, not only is to teach our children respect, but the best way to get through to them is through stories. Children learn and absorb the best lessons through stories. And so that's the story of my book, to teach children not only to respect each other, but to respect those who came before them, to respect history, to respect where we are today and why. That to me is the single most important responsibility that every parent in this country has. And I believe a lot of parents are dropping the ball. I see there is so much hate and divisiveness on the streets, political divide in this country, and it's time for parents to step up. Otherwise, our next generation is going to be literally spoiled. It shouldn't be an old-fashioned thing to say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. When's the last time you heard a child say, no, ma'am, yes, ma'am? I'd say we need to go back in time a bit and sort of erase the hatred that I'm seeing in this country. And the only way to do that really does start at home with parents and start them as young as possible and teach them how to respect.
One of our favorite lines is Henry David Thoreau, there's thousands hacking at the branches of evil for every one striking the root. And you hit the root there with the respect, because it ties into everything. Every political thing.
It really does. Everything. And I mean, my kids go to private Catholic school, but in the public school system, it's out of control. I mean, parents first of all, parents do not come down on their kids. They do not punish their children. Children are allowed to do whatever they want these days. There's no punishment. There's no accountability. So, in the Catholic school system, it is a little more strict, and children are not allowed to curse, number one. I mean, cursing is disrespectful. My children are not even allowed to say the word hate. They're not allowed to say stupid. So when they really dislike something, they say, I H-word that. Most people would think they're talking about another H. No. So I raise my children in a very conservative manner where we show each other respect. We do not speak to each other. We do not speak to our peers that way. And that is, I think, the single most important thing. If you see people at these protests, protesting, anti-Israeli protests, these are hateful protests. Teaching hate is what our parents are doing. And parents are now teaching the next generation to hate. We need to teach acceptance, and we need to accept our divisions. In other words, we need to accept the fact that sometimes we're not going to disagree with one another. It doesn't mean to hate them. Because you're a Republican, I don't hate you. Because you're a Democrat, I don't hate you. We agree to disagree. Whatever happened to that? Why can't we just have healthy disagreements in this country anymore? It doesn't seem to happen, and it starts at home. And that's why I think it's so important. Our children are watching, and we need to teach them early on so that we can create a healthier generation to come.
I love it. That's great. Go get the book, A Monumental Mistake. It's one of the Brave books.
Bravebooks.com, by the way.
Get...
Bravebooks.com. And by the way, right now there's a special because I do have another book on perseverance. If you go on bravebooks.com, you purchase a subscription, then you get a monthly book, a wholesome monthly book put out by Brave Books, and you get my 2 books for free. So that's a promotion that they have on bravebooks.com right now.
Bravebooks.com. The great
Correct.
Julie Banderas, Fox News, of course. A Monumental Mistake. And
Yes.
start there. Julie, great to talk to you. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Coming up next, Tom Askell from Founders Ministries, right here on the First TV. Spread the word. Welcome back to Politics by Faith, Media Lies and Propaganda. Let's turn to the Bible now. Go to the great Tom Askell, pastor, Grace Baptist Church, president of the wonderful Founders Ministries, and author of the book Suffering with Joy, Letters on Tragedy, Loss, and Hope. Tom, great to talk to you again, sir.
Mike, thanks so much for having me back on. It's always good to be with you.
Yes, ma'am. Before we get to deceit, does the Bible say anything about the media? Or anything like that specifically, or no?
Well, the Bible talks about discernment and wisdom, and he who presents his case first sounds right till another comes forward and questions him. And certainly we're not to be like the fools that are easily led astray. Lying spirits, the devil's the father of lies. I could go on and on.
Go on and on about the devil being the father of lies, because that's the place where we're not supposed to go. We're not supposed to go in that area at all, but
Yeah.
you are.
Well, of course.
You're equipped with that. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's why we're in the mess we're in. If we go back to Genesis chapters 1, 2, and 3, where God created everything good, created Adam and Eve, put them in a specifically prepared garden for them to watch over and to keep. And then the devil comes in the form of a serpent, and he begins to seduce Eve. He begins to lead her astray. And how does he do it? He doesn't do it with a frontal assault. It's very subtle. You know, has God really said? Did God really say? It's that doubt there. And then he tells an outright lie and a half-truth, which anytime a half-truth parades as a real truth, it's a whole lie. So he says, you will not die. You will not surely die. That's a lie. And then he says, God knows that you'll be like him. You'll be able to discern good from evil. Well, that's half true. I mean, they did become familiar with evil. Before that, there was no evil in the world. They were only good. God had only pronounced goodness over everything he created. And when they rebelled against God, that sin brought evil against good in the world. And so now we live in this fallen, evil world. So the mess we're in today as a human race is all because it started with a lie. And in John chapter 8, when Jesus is talking to the Pharisees, he says, you are of your father, the devil. And when he lies, he speaks his native language, which he's the father of lies. He's the one who brought the human race down through his successful tempting of Eve and then Adam by deceit, by dishonesty. So yeah, dishonesty has its roots in the very pit of hell from the father of lies, the devil himself.
I've heard that story before. I've read the Bible before. But as you're telling it now, it's really hitting home, and I'm really thinking, man, it didn't have to go that way. Like, that's not how Adam and Eve had to eat the fruit. The devil could have had a different tactic, right? He could have forced them, could have shoved it down her face. He could have done, I don't know, he could have transformed the fruit into something else or tricked them in some other way, but he did deceit. Why deceit then? Why that way, not a different way?
Yeah, well, again, that's his native language, Jesus says. You know, he's speaking of his own character and out of his own character when he does that, because the devil's the anti-God. He's the opposite of God. God is the God of truth. Of course, when Jesus is teaching his disciples before he's arrested, he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And when he stands before Pilate later that night when he's arrested and Pilate's questioning him, he says, I came into the world to bear witness to the truth. And Pilate asks his timeless question, what is truth? Well, Jesus standing before him was truth incarnate, truth personified. And so God always speaks truth. We're told that it is impossible for him to lie. He is the one who defines truth, and truth is a reflection of his own moral character. And so the devil comes in as the one who hates God, is opposed to God and everything that God does and stands for in his world and has created his world to be. And it makes perfect sense that the father of lies would seek to take the image bearers of God that he created to represent him in the world, the earth that he created, and to populate the earth and to turn the earth into the garden that he had prepared for them, that he would attack them at that very point.
Okay. Let me ask this question. Go to Pilate. You mentioned him. What did he mean by that? How did he say it? And what do you think he meant by what is truth?
Yeah, I think he was just expressing his skepticism, that there is no truth. Truth is what is expedient. In some sense, he would fit in pretty well today, that we really don't believe there is such a thing as truth. Francis Schaeffer, as you know, addressed this pretty clearly, and he began to talk in terms of what he described as true truth in order to separate it from what came to be known in our day as my truth and your truth. And I've got to live according to what I think is right and good and best for me. Jesus is standing before Pilate. He says, no, I came to bear witness to the truth. And I think Pilate, the representative skeptic's like, yeah, well, what's the truth? Nobody knows the truth. Yeah. Truth is that thing that is made up. And through history, we've seen this very idea through that time to now, and even before, in I think some ways, we've seen that fleshed out in various ways. Well, truth is power. Whoever has power dictates the truth, or whoever can be the cleverest in fulfilling the agenda that he has by using persuasion, whether that accords with truth and reality or not, well, then that guy is the champion of truth. Where in God's word, we have very clearly set before us that truth is reality. It comes from the God of truth. Jesus personified it in his life and ministry. And those who know Jesus, and we have a double responsibility to be people of the truth. As Paul says in Ephesians 4, when you are converted, you put off those old ways, and now let everyone speak truth to his brothers. We are all in the same family. So we are people of truth, and we're to represent that. And that obligation extends beyond Christians, because every creature, whether they acknowledge it or not, is made in the image of God and is called to reflect that image. And part of that, a significant part of that image, is to be a truth teller.
Okay. Maybe add a little nuance here. What are we to do with, I think I'm right, or I have an opinion that I think is true, based off truth, but I can't really know, maybe, perhaps all this. So maybe I don't say anything. I would be humble, so I'm just not going to say. And that person kind of has a little point, and I don't know their perspective, and they have their truth. So I'm not going to. How do you navigate speaking at all? Yeah. And between what is the truth, and I know you're not intentionally going out and lying, of course, but how are we to work with that, all the other nuances?
Yeah, well, we need to distinguish between lying, being intentionally deceptive, and speaking things that may not be true unintentionally. And so we can be a part of a perpetuation of things that are not true, while in and of ourselves not being intentionally deceitful or lying. If I hear something or I'm told something that is true or that is not true, and I repeat it, I believe that it's true, and so I think I'm speaking that which is true, but I am unintentionally participating in the lie and must not do that. When it's made known to me, then I need to acknowledge that and try to clear up any mess that I've created. But we can have opinions. We can have ideas. We can have speculations. We ought to hold those very humbly and recognize, okay, this is my opinion. I might be right about this. I might be wrong about this. I think it's going to rain tonight. It might rain, might not rain. If it rains, I was right. If it doesn't rain, I was wrong. But that's different than saying there's a God in heaven and he is Father, Son, Spirit, and he is the only God in the world. That's truth that's been revealed, and we accept that. It's different than the first thing is different than saying God has created us male and female, and the human race is comprised of exclusively male and female. And anyone who thinks that they can multiply various genders because of their own truth or what is true for them, they are going against what God has revealed to be true in his word and in nature. Nature itself, the God of the Bible is the God of nature, and he created us the way that we are. So where God has spoken, God has revealed himself either in the word or in nature. All creation declares his glory. As we align with that, then we are aligned with truth, and we need to speak that. And in nature, there are some things that we may not be able to fully comprehend, and that's okay. How old is the earth? Well, I don't know exactly. I don't know anybody that can say exactly how old the earth is. We can all have our opinions about that, but we need to say God created this earth, and this earth comes into existence by him, and it had a definite starting point, and he has an end game in mind for the purpose for which he created it. So there's differences between speculations, opinions, and what we know to be true.
Yes, we need to be aware of those differences and then proceed confidently in the truth, the things we know to be true. We got about 90 seconds. Tell us about your book, Suffering with Joy, Letters on Tragedy, Loss, and Hope. Why'd you feel the need to write this?
Yeah, well, this is a part of my life story. My sister Joy, who's her name, was diagnosed with glioblastoma back in 2020, or no, 2000, the year 2000. And our family, it was a death sentence, and our family wanted to do something to help and encourage her. So I talked to her about her favorite scripture verses, and she gave me a list, and I just started writing some little devotionals for the family based on those verses that we would send out, and we'd memorize those verses together with her one a week. And it grew, people got interested in it, and so it wound up being spread all over the place. And people had asked me through the years if I'd consider publishing it. I looked at that one time and didn't do it. And it just seemed right last year to finally pull the trigger and put all these together, edit them up so that it'd be more useful in a public way. But these are stories, or these are devotionals written based upon Bible verses that tell the story of my sister as she went down with cancer. She was a faithful Christian. She had a great testimony to her dying breath, and that's in this book, and the funeral sermon that I preach for is also in this book.
Well, that is lovely, and goodness, I hope my family can work through a difficult time like that, like the Askells did. That's just wonderful. Tom Askel, Grace Baptist Church, Founders Ministries. Go check out that website and buy the book, Suffering with Joy, Letters on Tragedy, Loss, and Hope. What's the website address?
It is founders.org. Founders.org.
Okay, everyone go there often. Tom, great to talk to you again, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you, Mike. Thanks.
Let's stick around in the Old Testament. Go to Ezekiel coming up next. Mike Slater, First TV. Spread the word. Welcome back to our special media lies and propaganda. I have a podcast called Politics by Faith. And what we do in the podcast is we take the news of the day, take the big story, and we run it through the Bible. What does the Bible say about this? What principles are at play here? And it's comforting because there's nothing new under the sun. That's good to know. But also the Bible gives us all the answers. So let's go there. I feel like we don't enough. So we do on the podcast, Politics by Faith. You can download it anywhere you listen to podcasts. The Bible is full of warnings. Not warnings, commands. Do not deceive people. Pretty clear. Proverbs 12:22, the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in those who tell the truth. Pretty clear. Leviticus and Deuteronomy. Leviticus 19, Deuteronomy 25. You guys can throw them up on the screen. They talk about honest weights and measures. What does that mean? Back in the day, if you wanted to weigh a pound of something, there was a scale, like a balance, right, on each side. And if you wanted a pound of flour, let's say, you would put the flour on one side, and then on the other side, you would put a 1 pound weight. And you could very easily trick people by having that pound not actually be a pound. And you could trick people and cheat them that way. Very easy to scam people. So God commanded People did not do that. And God's serious about this. And so just deceit in the media, it's rampant. The entire business model now is built on deceit. But God is very serious about this. It's an abomination, he says. This is not, in our court of law, this would not be a simple citation or misdemeanor. This is a eternal sentence. I was thinking of Ezekiel yesterday. Ezekiel, Old Testament prophet, around 600 BC, he was warning Jerusalem to stop with your idolatry. Stop it already. Judgment is coming. God said that you, Jerusalem, have rebelled against his judgment by doing wickedness. God said they have not walked in my statutes. And he said, indeed, I, even I, God is saying, am against you and will execute judgments in your midst in the sight of the nations. The whole world will see this. And I will do among you what I've never done, and the like of which I will never do again, because of all your abominations. Therefore, fathers shall eat their sons in your midst. What? And sons shall eat their fathers. What in the world is that? What is he talking? He's talking about cannibalism? Well, the attack from Babylon came. A siege. That's what a siege, they surround the city. That's what a siege is. So they surrounded the city to prevent food and anything from coming in. And the people became so desperate, so starving to death, that they ended up eating each other. It was a 30-month-long siege. So God was right. Lamentations 4:10 says the same thing. The hands of compassionate women, so like otherwise people who would never dream of doing such a thing, have boiled their own children. They became their food during the destruction of the daughter of my people, Jerusalem. I recommend a read of Ezekiel 5-8 or so. God said, I will bring a sword against you and destroy your high places. These are the altars to false gods were often placed on the tops of hills or mountains. And God said, I'm going to completely destroy all of it. Ezekiel 6:4, I will cast down your slain men before your idols, and I will lay the corpses of the children of Israel before their idols, and I will scatter your bones all around your altars. He's not kidding around, is my point. But the good news is that God promised and did leave a remnant of people to tell the story. Verse 9 says, then those of you who escape, right, the remnant that I keep, will remember me among the nations where they're carried captive, because I was crushed by their adulterous heart, which has departed from me, and by their eyes, which play the harlot after their idols. They will loathe themselves for the evils which they committed in all their abominations. That's the key word that I wanted to keep emphasizing, abominations. Like lying like this, it's no joke. It's no joke. You think, well, so what does that have to do with the media? You're talking about Ezekiel and cannibalism in the world. What does that have to do with the media? Lying. Proverbs 6:16 says there are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to him. Haughty eyes, so proud, aren't I so wonderful, I'm amazing. A lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that make haste to run to evil, a false witness that breathes out lies, and one who sows discord among brothers. I think a lying, deceitful media is all of those things. The shedding of innocent blood, like maybe that's a stretch, but if you're a media that spreads lies that lead to war, that's the shedding of innocent blood. Or if you spread lies that prevent peace, then you're shedding innocent blood at like one step away from it. It's like enough still to be a problem. Now I know what you're thinking, Slater, aren't you just as guilty? Right here you are talking about it's only the left-wing media that's an abomination to God. There's a difference here. We all make mistakes. I'm not going to hold someone accountable for making a mistake. I'll give you an example. I was talking to someone the other day who said, oh, did you see that Amazon's going to put the price of tariffs on their purchases? And I was like, oh, actually, they came back like an hour later and said they're not going to do that. Okay, like they made a mistake. That they weren't an abomination to God with that. We all make mistakes. I've been wrong many times. I've changed my mind on many issues. Over the years, I've explained why I've changed my mind. I've been proven wrong many times. Excuse me. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about what is someone's intent. Is the intent truth? Is the intent to inform? Does someone come with a curious heart? Or do they come with an intent to deceive? Is the intent to sell ads at whatever the cost? Is the intent to lie, to deceive wicked plans, to breathe out lies and create havoc among everyone in the country? Then that's an abomination. And it's our job to save people from it. Listen, I know we just spent an hour doing this. It's really not complicated. We don't need to make it as complicated maybe as we made it. Let's boil it all down here. As God did, the 9th commandment, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. There it is, one sentence. Don't lie. Don't deceive. Stop doing it. Stop being a part of it. Don't give people your time or attention or money who make a living off of it. Slater Radio on Twitter and Instagram. My podcast again, Politics by Faith. Take the news of the day, run it through the Bible, try to find out what is true, what is good, what is beautiful, and what is true. Please join us over on the podcast, Politics by Faith. Mike Slater, The First TV, spread the word.